already given a victory on map number 1, which should be Coastline. We'll see what happens with the operator bans. For the first 3 maps, TSM will be starting on defense. Clubhouse, Consulate, and Villa. TSM on defense first, SSG on attack first. That changes if we need Cafe. We might not even need Villa, but here we are. Funny enough, and very conveniently, it flips on overtime. So TSM is going to be starting on defense the first 3 maps, but in overtime we'll be attacking twice. If you pull up the statistics on which attackers are banned the most, well, there's a bit of flexibility here. The defenders so far have been dominated by both Valkyrie and Wamai. Do bear in mind that Echo is still out of play. Maestro has not been banned so far in this major. He will get removed, as will Kaid. The operators on defense that have been banned thus far are Wamai, Valkyrie, Mira, Vigil, and Clash. So getting to see this Kaid Maestro ban is really something special. Now, it's TSM who banned Maestro. Why do they do that? Well, 2 men. Fultz and Thinking Nade are both spectacular on that Maestro role. And while we know that Merc is capable of holding that same role on TSM, they've been using him with a little bit more offensive upside, Vigil being a pretty good operator for that. Now, Vigil has escaped the ban phase, so we're not going to see him, or we're not going to see him banned, so we will likely see him in the game at some point. TSM will be starting down on Church and Arsenal. While I do like how much diversity there is on these attacker bans, because right now, Ying and Nomad and Ace and Maverick are dominating. They are making up all but 3, or all but, rather, I guess technically 6 different operator bans. 3 games in which they were banned. So getting to see a Thatcherless and a Maverick-less Clubhouse will be fun to watch.
It is very different to have both of these operators banned, that's for sure, but it does upset the paradigm somewhat, and I can respect that. I was talking about this with the desk before we got started. You know, if and when we end up on Clubhouse, which you got to expect with the way the ban phase works in a best of 5, TSM is going to have to shift things. They're going to have to change the way the game is played somewhat in order to have any kind of edge over SSG. And you got to respect that they are doing that right now, the way that these bans have ended up. At least SSG has that Kaid ban to make it not as bad. So there's that. You talked about the Maestro ban as well. All of these contributing factors to each other. They build off of how the style typically works with denial and the hard destruction. We'll see how the clear works for Space Station. They want to get in through Jacuzzi. They're going to have to use the Collie to do it. There you go. First one used. She has 3. Canadian will use this exothermic charge. Now, this is a basement defense, but a top floor roam. Usually referred to as the SSG strat. It's TSM employing it here. And, well, they're already doing a great job of delaying.
That Kali, by the way, was a 6th pick from Thinking Nade, imbued with powers now that he's able to type his full name in. One of the things that the land build doesn't have is the same character limitations. So instead of going with Thinkin' Nade, he can go with the Thinking Nade and actually put the G at the end of the name. Unfortunately, one of the best performers for TSM this weekend is the very first casualty of the very first round of the very first map, technically, which is Chala. Down he goes. Entry from Fultz going as we've seen from Fultz so far. 62 and 30 being his kill count. He now has 63 kills. When Fultz hits 7 kills, then we get to say nice. But until then, can't really talk about him too much. But Fultz obviously keeping just as strong as he was before. I think he tweeted, Michael, that he switched to 4x3, and since then it, quote-unquote, hits different.
Oh, okay. When did he tweet? Oh, lounge pressure here. Merc on red stairs. He's surrounded. He'll have to fight his way out of this position. Not going to be easy. Collie challenging him from server, and he wins that fight. Shotgun comes out. Last is a miss. The second one won't be, though. 2 kills for Merc. He's coming up big here. Dishes out some damage to Fultz. The SMG gets the 3rd kill for Merc at the top of red stairs. And here's some support from Bolo, who whiffs all his shots. Fultz will get his 3rd kill as well. So a 2-2 with 40 seconds left, but only 1 anchor. Merc is known to be upstairs. Canadian Fultz will, knowing this, rotate their attack. Fultz will drop into Moto. Go over to short. Gio's calling his teammate back now, insisting that he needs support on the side. He's trying to play his life. Merc gets back for the 4th kill. He's put to low HP, though. Pistol out from Fultz. He needs to reload. Only 3 bullets. Make that 31. With 15 seconds left, he's going to have to find 2, but it will not happen. TSM lock the round up. A 4K from Merc is unanswered.
That might be one of the most clutch rounds that Merc has put up so far in this entire tournament. He and Achieved have been terribly quiet for TSM. We talk about win conditions in the desk. We'll talk about win conditions, and we will refer back to them throughout the entirety of this matchup. But if Achieved and Merc have the same kind of day that they had yesterday, and the day before that, where they are ineffective in their roles, TSM are in significant trouble. You've had good performances from both Chala and Bolo, so that's fine. And Geo is oftentimes on those roles where he doesn't need to do anything flashy. He just needs to be stable. And, well, stability is something that Geo does offer to this team. Merc and Achieved are going to be the question marks for TSM. The same with SSG regarding Rampy and Fultz. Both Rampy and Fultz have been on a tear so far. Fultz, the superior player, but obviously Rampy has been doing just fine, as is Thinking Nate. If Fultz or Rampy struggle to show up in this matchup, that single player failing to achieve the levels that we know that they can achieve, that also could be the difference maker. We can talk about strategy until we're blue in the face. But if you are just lacking confidence, if you aren't hitting your shots, if the nerves are striking you, then that can be all that it takes for 1 or 2 rounds to switch. And if these teams are as evenly matched as we know they can be, 1 to 2 rounds can make all the difference. That said, good hold from TSM, and it really comes down to Merc and the way that he played on red stairs. SSG decided to push him 1 by 1 by 1. I think after the 2nd kill, they hadn't really determined where Merc was and whether he was playing supported or not, and SSG just filtered into their death. Merc played it perfectly. Still a strong performance from Fultz from Spacestation, but ultimately, Merc was able to waste about 2 minutes of the clock, do a ton of damage to Fultz, and take out 3 other members of SSG. Very successful in the job that he was trying to do, all with minimal utility, just playing off of his gun skill.
Chief just looking for the run out. He's got the prepped window, and he'll win the fight against Fultz. That's your top performer for the last round, gone early on here. It's a really important kill. Chief did take some damage from it, though. So he's going to be worse for wear in future engagements. Canadian able to open up the wall into server. It's been a very swift execution so far. You notice how TSM is not bringing any wall denial. No mutes, no bandits. Kaid's banned. They just want to play off of what does get opened, knowing that it's likely to get opened. You've got the Kali in play. You don't need Thatcher, and there's plenty of hard destructors to go around. Maverick being banned is not the end of the world here for Space Station. It does shift their kit, though. That's the most important thing. You'll notice the lack of an Ash on Space Station's lineup. That is a forced shift due to the operator bans. And it really does make you a little bit more rigid, because you have to focus more on bringing excess hard destruction just so you're sure you're going to be able to open up everything. A Maverick on Clubhouse can often fix this problem, but not so here.
This Kali will be fun to watch. Mostly required because Thatcher and Mav are gone. Now, obviously, after Thatcher was banned by TSM and SSG favored that Mav ban, Mav was banned in their matchup yesterday against TSM. That means that you kind of put into a box in regards to banning Kaid, because you know that if you leave a Kaid on the board with no Thatcher and Maverick, the attacker's chances of being able to breach the defensive structure is, well, it's very slim. Even with the Kali on the board, it requires just a lot of time and a lot of work that you might not be prepared for. The good news for SSG is that they will find some confidence in the hands of Thinking Nate on that role. For TSM, they are in significantly better shape for their 6 defensive rounds because of the way that these bans shaped out. SSG realized that attacking from the balcony leading into CCTV is not exactly what they want, so they have decided to post up over by construction. And TSM is just waiting and is obliged to greet them, with Chala and Achieved playing off of the panel on red, waiting, watching intently, while Achieved can also look towards the window that would be inside of the B-bomb site. There goes all of Chala's gas canisters. There goes a nade from Rampy, though, and it claims what little was left of Achieved. So now more on the shoulders of Chala as 3 members of SSG stacked up in the same spot. But they're waiting for it. Rampy runs right into his death. Canadian is in next. Chala finished off. Thinking Nade will now need to cover. Canadian, where are you? You need to go for the plant at some point. Thinking Nade's the only one to watch you. 3 members from TSM will come in, and it's the sidearm of the collie of Thinking Nade. He guns one down. Looks for the second. He grabs it. Runs out into the Valkyrie. It's Merc versus Canadian. He gets them both. 2 for the price of 1. What a hell of a performance through 2 rounds for Merc. And TSM will happily take the first 2 rounds of Clubhouse.
What an effort from Thinking Nade. 1 more frag from any of his teammates on the entry there. And Thinking Nade would have taken the dub, protecting Canadian, looming over him like a mother hen. I thought that was going to be Thinking Nade for the W there. I really did. Merc, though, as you mentioned, has been coming in clutch time and time again. I mean, we're just getting started here. It feels like we've been running a marathon and we're halfway through. With only 2 rounds done, these teams have been slugging hard against each other. I mean, I know this is a 12-round match in a certain perspective, but I really didn't think that it was going to start off so explosively.
Merc. What a showing already. I don't think I'd have to look back on all of the individual statistics, but Merc at this point, he has 6 kills through 2 rounds. Obviously, probably not going to sustain those numbers. At some point, he's going to come back down to earth. But for somebody like Merc, who has struggled to break 5 or 6 kills in a fair number of maps so far, and TSM's played a couple maps. The fact that Merc is already at 6 is excellent for him. And it's really good for his team, because I honestly think that's been the one big thing missing so far. It hasn't just been achieved, but Merc more than anything. I know that Merc gets beaten up on social media for this, and I know that the TSM fans have very high expectations of somebody who is often touted as being one of the best fraggers in the game. But when Merc has a slow day, TSM does suffer for it. Today, he has utterly dominated those 2 rounds. Extremely impactful plays on round 1 on red stairs. Extremely impactful plays inside of cash in the post-plant clutch for Merc. Overshadowing what was a tremendous performance from Thinking Nade.
I think that one of the common themes you see with the layman when watching a Siege competition is that they will assume that their particular favorite player is going to have the performance all the time. One thing that is very prevalent, or very common, I guess I should say, in high-level Siege competition is, you're not always going to have a good day as an individual. What really matters is having a good day as a team. So, for example, Bolo hasn't gotten his first kill yet. And yeah, he's gonna eat some on social media for that. But that's just from the people who don't get that TSM is a team. Merc is filling in the role right now. And someday in the future, Bolo's going to fill in for Merc. And you're going to have give and take there. And that's part of the equation. You got to remember that you can't always be popping off. Not too long ago, as you mentioned just now, not too long ago, it was Merc who was in the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And we could see that even shift in the middle of this best of 5. We're not done yet. In fact, as much as this feels like we've been watching a lot of these teams play together, we're only just getting started.
Have to wrestle with this clash as the first point of contact, and there's already been a lot of time that's gone on here in round number 3. It's a little minute to go or so. Boltz is waiting for the clash to show either of her sides, and then Achieved can just take a couple bullets to the shoulder, and that'll be that. But there's been a call made from TSM, and said the clash will wander on over towards Jacuzzi, and posted out on the balcony is the Sledge all alone. Rampy will do what he can, but there's really not a lot of options here. Grenade primed and ready. You have to toss that one properly. There it goes, and down goes Achieved. What were you expecting, Achieved? You had to know that was coming. He gets an anvil dropped on his head, and just like that, the opening pick for SSG may allow them to snowball into the rest of the bomb site, but they've got some work to do. They're going to have to tackle this wall inside a bathroom first. Merc with 1. That's his 7th kill. Fultz finds Geo, but still the advantage favoring Spacestation for now. Chala scrambles as best as he can. He's exposed inside a bedroom. Fultz swings in. A big kill from him, and he's flicking around trying to find his next target. It'll be Merc ready to strike. He's watching over by the logistics store at the top of the main stairs. He'll get droned out by Canadian in just a second, and there it goes. Fultz was on the bed waiting for this. If Merc pops up and looks the wrong way, he's going to get punished for it. He does indeed. Fultz looking for another. He's found 3 kills in this round. Plant going down, and Bolo is in one of the worst spots you can find yourself in. Does lots of damage to Fultz, but Rampy is there for added insurance. And Space Station, well, they break TSM's 2-round streak, and SSG finds round number 1 for them.
It's a good job there from Fultz on the entry from Workshop. That's key to the round. We saw SSG take control over by Cash very early on. And that was huge because with that control, they can leverage so much crossfire on the site. Now, the shields were the contingency plan for TSM. They're thinking, okay, if we lose control of Workshop, not a big deal. We've got enough shields to position ourselves comfortably. And that did work to an extent. It actually kept TSM in that round a lot longer than they had any right to be. But ultimately, because Fultz on a solo push out of Workshop was unstopped, unable to land all of his shots because, you know, Fultz just does that, keeping true to his 2.0 KD so far in this map, as he has over this entire tournament. Because of that entry, because nobody on TSM is able to stop him, he was, I think, really just the winner for that round. The man to stand out, as I like to say. The rest of SSG took advantage of that. We also saw a beautiful nade very early on. Chief going down in the clash. You really voiced it perfectly. What was he thinking? I'm not sure. Whatever the case be, that early casualty for TSM was somewhat crippling, given that Clash's main purpose is to delay the round as long as Clash can.
Totally agree. And small mistakes like that have been committed by every single team so far in the major. We've seen them time and time again. We pointed our finger at Rampy for a couple of the things that he did. We pointed our finger at some of the plays that were made by various members of Dark Zero. You and I didn't cast either of the OXG matches, so we didn't point our finger at them at all. We did the same with TSM and some of the plays that we've seen from Merc, and even some of the plays that we've seen from Geo and Achieve that have kind of caught us by surprise.
Whoa!
Now that's a
special delivery for Merc, and he is not accepting packages at this time.
No, please return to sender. Thinking Nate enjoyed the bench for the next 2 minutes or so. The Jackal drops in front of the open window at Jim and gets vaporized. So, all right, TSM now at this point through 4 rounds. They've broken even with Space Station on these opening duels and will look to sit pretty in terms of holding the numbers. Now, if you go back to round number 1, which was the last time, or even the first time, that this was a Church Arsenal hold. I paused for but a moment there because Fultz is, at the moment, in a battle to the death with Achieved, and, well, he doesn't really want any of that, but he needs to be very careful of down below. Fultz fishing for that other kill, and somebody lurks on the stairs of blue. Ever so patient, it's Geo, and he'll just continue to run round and round and round as Fultz creeps up as best as he can. Though he's slowed by the Banshee at the bottom of those stairs. Geo's not going to give up on this spot. Very rightly so. Great trigger discipline so far from Fultz, but it has ultimately cost him. And, well, it doesn't there, though. He misses on every shot. That is not what you want to see from your superstar fragger on Space Station. That should have been a very easy kill on Geo.
No, sir. That was definitely a moment to make or break the round. And Fultz actually takes more damage than he put out. The worst possible result. Keep in mind, TSM still has roamers far afield on the top floor. 2 of them. Achieved and Merc in positions of power over the SSG attack right now. And Space Station just doesn't have the time to deal with them. So they'll lose Fultz on a long angle being played by the main staircase here. Merc picking up his 2nd kill. He's C4's for the 3rd, but nobody's there to catch it. He'll get it in the hallway. Bosco goes down, and Merc rotating back into sight. On an entry here, Canadian and Rampy have forced their way into Arsenal. They've got site control by default Plant and Box 1, but they're dealing with K9 now. That's Geo who wins his fight, and the C4 for the 2nd. TSM shut SSG out.
This is a night and day TSM than we saw yesterday, and while they obviously came very prepared for Clubhouse, and when you're in a best of 5 situation, you know there's going to be one default ban. SSG worked really hard to ensure that Clubhouse was going to be on the board. And who can blame them? It's one of your strongest maps. You absolutely slaughtered your opponents on this map yesterday. The thinking behind it for Spacestation is that they might know that it's going to be a closer matchup, but they still will come into this with the utmost confidence. This is SSG's map. It is the very first map that is technically being played. And yet still, TSM are proving that they are very capable of bouncing back. Merc, Geo, they have shown up huge so far. And because they've shown up so big, you've got your two typical players from TSM that we've been touting the praises of, both Chala and Bolo. They've been very quiet. Merc breaks double digits in the first 4 rounds off of multiple kills in every single round. What was it, a 4K, a 2K, a 2K on the previous round, and another 2K would give him 10? It really is outstanding stuff from Merc.
That would give him 8, wouldn't it?
No, because he got
10.
a 4K,
yeah, it would
and
give him 10.
a 4K and 3 2Ks.
Yeah, I forgot about the third 2K. There's something empowering about being not necessarily in a position to, you know, as you say, put yourself on double digits in the first 4 rounds. But I think somewhat more important for a player's mentality, the lack of death. Merc has died once. That is a superpower. That is something that puts you in the driver's seat for a map. And the kills are almost secondary sometimes when you're in that position. The kills kind of, you don't really realize it when you're there. You're just picking up frags and you're not really sure what's happening. But what you are certain of is, man, I haven't really been dead very much. This feels great. I'm playing in all of these rounds. I'm influencing every single one of them in a meaningful and significant way. Speaking of, in this round, Merc is going to try and bandit trick the wall. You can see he's standing away from the wall to try and avoid lifelines from the Zofia or nades that might come from below. He will react based on what the thermite does. Looks like it's going to be the evil, or rather the discs and the Jaeger ADS is protecting Merc, but he will not force the issue, allowing the wall to be opened up. I think that's the right call there for Merc. He possibly could have denied the wall, but it's better to just have Merc still in play. His gun is too hot to let drop on the floor right now.
Absolutely correct. But he does drop anyway, Michael, down into that first floor, and will head up the main stairs where he could end up in a collision course with none other than Rampy over by Jacuzzi. Merc is aware of this as Rampy opens up some of that wall, and, well, a drone just drops on down to help Rampy on this entry point. That's half of the round gone right now. Merc tosses out a nitro cell, and he gets it. Oh my goodness. Everything about Merc is just coming up roses at the moment. And he's going to continue to persist in this angle. He gets shaken off, but Bosco is waiting just outside of the construction window, and down goes Merc. So that hot hand, well, it'll ride the bench. A single kill, but a pivotal one at that. While there's not a ton of time left for the remainder of SSG to get themselves in order.
They can do it, but it will be tight. The issue is this workshop to cash transition. It is a claustrophobic execution, and you still have TSM positioned, specifically Geo, in garage. From rafters, he can hold a long angle onto all the entry points from workshop, and you can see him positioning to do just that already. As he gets up on... Oh no! That's huge for SSG! They take down Geo, and suddenly a whole angle is eliminated for TSM's defense. That could be the entry that SSG needs. Achieved is still on the roam downstairs, though. He might be a problem if he comes up late in garage. Fultz has reassumed the position that his opponent just now had lost. And he could do some work here, cutting off the red hallway. He's being flanked, though, and there's Achieved with a big frag. Now he's on rafters. The plank going down by the rafters window in server, and it's going to be successful. It looks like good coverage from SSG. Now in a post plant, 3 versus 3. TSM need to force the issue, and they'll do just that. Chala gets the first frag in that 3v3. Thinking Nade and Canadian just trying to stay alive. 10 bullets here, and it's enough for the kill. Pistol out, and the second kill for Thinking Nade. He is hunting heads and looking for glory. Bolo pushing into cash. He needs to find 2 big ones. With only 25 seconds, it doesn't seem very likely. He'll vault into server, good positioning, and he will win the first fight. That's huge. But look at that. His last opponent's on the roof, and he's got full information on the diffuser. It's just not gonna happen. He needs 7 seconds. He'll have to stick this. No option for Bolo. Canadian can take his time, and here it is. Wait, the time is close, but Canadian gets it. There was about a half a second left, but Bolo just doesn't get on soon enough.
Oh my goodness. The fact that SSG didn't want to deal with that Banshee almost comes back to haunt them with how close that was for Bolo. And what a great play from him, even though SSG had control of that bomb site. Obviously, the retake for TSM was a deliberate one. As you can see, they'd assembled at least 3 of their 5 operators deep off site with an opportunity to either fight from below, retake from garage, or even retake from inside of cache. So, hey, TSM comes very, very close, and it very easily could have been a 4-1 in their favor. Now, the good news for Spacestation fans is that with it being another take onto the same bomb site, if you can ensure that the small things that you messed up, aka the entry against Merc, how long it took you to be able to get that wall open. Merc in particular was once again a very pivotal figure in that round. He was able to stop Spacestation from being able to take the wall into CCTV, also claimed the skull of Rampy, and then gets shut down by Bosco, but that's over half of the round used. So Merc, again, he is a huge part of why that round is so close for TSM. If Spacestation can just be a little bit quicker on that, TSM's defense was quite sound. I think it really just came down to the fact that they were a little bit too late to retake. If they were faster, could have broken their favor. For Spacestation, you've got a couple small things that you can fix, but I suspect that from TSM, we're going to see an entirely different setup that doesn't involve them playing that far off site. The biggest tell of that is the fact that there is going to be no wall denial whatsoever. No bandit, no mute. All those walls are going to get opened up. Spacestation knows this. They'll be quick at it, I'm sure. But then the problem is, well, what do we do about those that are sitting behind the 2 deployable shields that'll be present, the Valkyrie cameras that'll be up, and the Nitro cells that will either be prepped and ready from inside of the A bomb site or from down below?
There goes the EXO. I think you're probably right. Those are going to be one of the most important factors for TSM. You can see they're kind of set up for that, as you mentioned. I'm curious if SSG is going to approach that problem downstairs directly, or if they'll simply hit the site. Looks like it's going to be direct. Canadian is droning Rampy in downstairs. Bosco droning the top floor. Rampy's, or rather, excuse me, Achieved is spotted at the bottom of main, and he gets info but loses the fight. What a shot from Rampy. Gosh, I wish we could have seen that one, but it almost looked like we didn't even have Rampy on screen. And keep in mind, this is LAN build, so that's not something you blame on the servers. That's just Rampy being insane. He's got support with Fultz downstairs. TSM now 1 man down, but look at that! Rampy doesn't check all his angles, and Merc punishes him for it. 12 frags for the man who's keeping his team in contention almost single-handedly. He's trying not to die to Bosco, who he knows to be on the cutoff. Taking a patient stance here. Merc is playing his life, and he's doing it well. Here's the vault into Jim, sprays through the wall, but it's a feint, and Bosco is the real straight. He'll take down Merc. SSG now, man advantage. 1 minute left to finally get onto the site.
It's roughly the same amount of timing, by the way, and you're in a similar position. For Spacestation, you've lost Rampy. However, you've managed to pinch an extra member of TSM. So when you burst into this bomb site, the 3 off-site players from TSM, if you can even really call it that, because Geo is but a single leap and bound into the B bomb site and Chala is a rotate away. TSM are still going to be fighting from far enough back, but SSG will have to break in, and they'll have to do so quite quickly. Because since we saw that final frag happen, there's been over 30 seconds expended. Chala in a very suitable position here at the top of red stairs. He'll be the first line of defense. Still got 2 of those gas canisters with 20 seconds left. There goes 1 into the common spot that'll get pushed in from construction. Geo prone, waiting to see the shins of somebody inside of CCTV, but he can't find it just yet. That's going to be the Zofia who's going to be in that line of sight, and there you go, but not enough damage done. Bolo evens the odds. Fultz takes out Chala. There's the pressure you need. Bolo down below. Oh no, he looks away at the wrong time, but finds Fultz nonetheless. The case is picked up, thinking Nate will have to go for the defuse with Bosco being the only one alive until Geo punishes him, and then a nitro cell from Bolo will drive the dagger through the heart of Spacestation. The first half is done. It's over. TSM with a 4-2 advantage. That's a comfortable spot to be in. Spacestation will move on to defense. TSM on to attack.
Well, you called it, Parker. The C4 from below was the undoing there of the attack from Spacestation. But also, crucially, Geo didn't die in garage. The last time, of course, TSM went to that site, Geo's fate or casualty inside a garage was probably the most important kill for Space Station's execution. But he just persisted. And those angles on the prone hole there, nobody from SSG was comfortable challenging that one. And it makes sense. What an odd thing for Achieve to do. And it worked out great. We were talking in the lead-in about how TSM needs to get a little funky with it. They need to do some upsetting things. This is SSG's map. They have proven that time and time again. But yeah, I mean, the little funky things that TSM did pull out on that first half were good enough to get them to the 4-2. 4-2 is a winning half, of course. It is expected and hoped for on defensive sided maps like Clubhouse. But the most important thing here, regardless of all the stats and looking at the scoreline, the most important thing that I'm noticing about this matchup so far is that it is nothing like the last time these teams met yesterday. It is a whole different ball game. TSM is on point, and they are playing the game, surely and truly, which is we can't. Last time these teams met, we cannot say that.
TSM are a much superior team right now, but how much of that is honestly just Merc's play? If Merc presently wasn't roaming with the same confidence, if he wasn't as effective to kill time, if he wasn't as aggressive as he is, because yeah, Merc is hitting his shots just fine, but I think the key difference that we've seen as of late is that Merc is deliberately taking fights, whereas he seemed to shy away from it previously. In most of the matches that we've seen with TSM, Merc has not been that eager to put himself in harm's way early on. He's been playing a much more conservative style of Rainbow Six. Not the case at all today. If Merc was playing more conservatively, and he only had a third of the kills he had right now, which is where he would usually be at in times past, is this still a 4-2 match for TSM? I don't think so. And I do think that Merc is the focal point for this team. Excellent impact trick, by the way, is there'd been damage done to SSG, their lives being chipped away at by TSM. And Fultz is the first one to die with, by the way, him getting a kill previously. That puts him at 69 kills so far in the major.
Nice.
Thinking Nate is still alive, and that bandit tricking that he's doing on the wall is going to be crucial. TSM had thought that they'd get away with it, but Geo will now only have one exothermic charge remaining, and you just want to bleed that utility out if you're Space Station. TSM will have to do a better job of being able to get Thinking Nate off of this spot.
Bolo's the one to do it. Downstairs, he's trying to put the pressure on from underneath. I don't know if he has any lifelines, but I doubt it. Looks like he's used them. And there's a spray from the bandit himself, Thinking Nate, putting the pressure back now onto Bolo. The fact that Thinking Nate has kept this wall intact for so long is huge. He's going to keep trying to do it. He's only got one battery. He can't juggle that fast enough. It's just not possible. But the delay factor is there, and he will get out with his life still intact. SSG in a decent position, though the HP and the man disadvantage here does seriously put them in a worse spot than they could be. The utility game has been well managed by Thinking Nate and Space Station in general, so it's not over. This is still anyone's round. And the time is being poorly managed by TSM as they get ready for their final execute.
There's a good pick from Rampy as Achieve just repels on up. The opening in the garage being watched by the Mute 2 before Rampy falls off that position and returns to the bomb site. Bosco anchoring down garage, but he's got Merc underneath him, and a near miss from Merc. He doesn't tend to miss those opportunities, but in this case, he does. More pressure on the shoulder of Bosco, but unfortunately, Merc being unable to hit it means that Bosco takes down Shalov, even though the 2 kills from TSM are good. Bolo will be taken down by Rampy. Plant from Geo. It needs to be stopped. Is anybody going to push it? There it is, Rampy at the last second from down below. We've seen him in this spot before, leaving Merc to just live or die inside of garage. SSG takes their very first defense, and this map, well, so far, it's every bit as close as we'd expected.
I just want to say right there, that was a huge kill from Rampy downstairs. Of course, he denied the plant through the floor, and you'd think, well, okay, they had pre-made holes through the floor. That must be why they denied the plant. Great job to Rampy. Awareness on the positioning and the utility play. He's going to go downstairs, and he's going to deny. No big deal. The crazy thing about that, though, is Rampy didn't even have holes downstairs. He just knew exactly where the plant spot is. And I think that's just one of those little marks of a true professional that kind of give you that slight edge. He knew the precise spot to shoot through the floor onto what was him a blank ceiling. That's some nice, just tiny little pieces of awareness that do go a long way in this game. Now, with that said, it was not the extent of the round. Most of that comes down to the bandit tricking we saw from Thinking Aid. That delayed 2 minutes by itself. And apart from that, the very slow execution from TSM. Now, I want to talk about why that execution was so slow, or at least why I think that execution was so slow. And you can tell me what you think here, Parker. But you've got your star performer with 12 kills over 7 rounds on a hard breacher. He is not going to be able to entry the same way that you would like him to be able to. And I know that role swaps in the middle of matches can be weird and clunky, and you've got your plan, but we saw Merc be the last person. He didn't even die in that round. Right. He's not in a position to really expose himself because, yeah, he's got a great gun on a good operator for entry if you don't need hard breach, but you do need hard breach on this map. And him not being able to make those entry plays where the rest of TSM is not as potent in the fragging department right now, that is going to hold back TSM's execution. It's going to slow him down.
He's comfortable on this role, though, and I do think there is some credibility that teams like to play ace in a frag-heavy role once those Selmas go down, especially when you've got the 2 hard breaches, right? And that's the goal of Geo on this squad, is to take out the hatches, which is going to be his prime target, as this is a church defense for SSG, and because of that, well, you got 3 hatches that you need to take care of. You happen to have 3 bursts of X-Kairos before the changes to Hibana come into effect, which are currently live on the test server. Also, time for everybody that's watching right now. If you're on PC, download the test server. You get access to content ahead of time. This is not how I expected them to use their utility, by the way.
Yeah.
You've got a Hibana who's each round of X-Kairos can open that up. Unless they're worried about getting impact tricked. That's the only thing I can think of, and I mean, it's a pretty good assumption.
There doesn't
Except there's,
appear...
no impact grenades on SSG's side of things. So I understand why TSM wants to do this, but if they didn't know the lineup from Spacestation, they would have known that they didn't necessarily need to do that. What this will do is it will very likely leave 1 round of X-Kairos to probably go on the church wall. That would be my guess. There's still 1 left for Geo, so... that seems to be the plan, unless he's going to drop blue, but there's a lot of confusion right now as to what TSM wants to do, and you can hear it in our own voices, as they have seemingly just called an audible and completely changed up how they wanted to pull off this execute, with some of their focus going towards Dirt Tunnel, and the rest just being a straight kitchen drop.
This is going to be very dangerous. The smokes are going in to try and make it a little bit better, but you can see SSG is perched up, waiting for the drop. Achieve will get fault, so that's a great entry, but look at the time. 25 seconds? TSM doesn't have any options right now, and this position being played by Rampy could win the round for Spacestation alone. He even has a C4 if he loses track of his opponent. Geo gets into Cubby. C4 is there, but he's not using it as the flank from blue works out for TSM. Huge kills there from Chala. They allow for the plant to go down. And now Rampy, with almost no HP, is going to have to find 4. It's not happening. Geo shuts him down. He can plant and frag too. And TSM make a miracle happen in that round.
Well, the performers that we didn't see high numbers from over the last couple days have seemingly woken up and have just taken on this mantle of world beaters, as both Geo and Merc are the 2 players on TSM that are having the best day at the moment. A huge round from Chala as well, and don't discredit the sledging that was done of Achieved above. He got that opening pick to start things off, but his ability to take away that flooring inside a kitchen is what opened up a lot of these avenues for TSM to play off of, and additionally make it so that the defenders can't just freely push up to the diffuser. It might not seem like something big, but if you lose a sledge or a buck early on a map like Clubhouse, on a site like Church, and you cannot do to the kitchen floor what Achieved just did, the chances of you being able to successfully hold a post plant from above drop, and they drop very quickly. You need to be able to cut down on rotations that are going to happen below. As an attacker sitting on that hatch, guarding the diffuser from an entire floor above, you need to be able to see people when they're coming. Whether it be the doorway leading into Church, whether it be from dummies, whether it be from AK, whether it be over by Dirt Tunnel, there's a lot of very strong positions that you can play upstairs in Kitchen that are solely enabled by the soft destruction work. So that's one of those things where we often talk about how the contributions that you make are not always shown on the scoreboard. Sure, Achieved got a kill to start off that round. Tremendous. The first pick came with 35 seconds left on the clock, and it allowed TSM a little bit of breathing room when they went for the plant. But the story was not all Achieved. His work, in terms of what he did with his gadget, was arguably far more important than the single kill that he got, and that is a metric that is never going to be shown when you press tab or bring up the scoreboard. It just will not happen.
Top floor clear is necessary here, as SSG has an extensive roam upstairs. This is their strat, as people like to remind everyone of. And they're using it to the fullest. Jacuzzi wall is the main focus early on for TSM. That opened up. They're looking to cut off the roamers to prevent them from retreating through cache. Nade goes over to server. That's to get the other mute jammer on the server wall. Spacestation are reading into it and saying, yeah, we're going to leave. They've dropped down to the middle floor. You have two options here. They can go back to site, or they can push the issue and try to get more frags. Interesting that we have somebody on TSM in Strip Club. That's an uncommon position to play, but it can assist in cutting off the rotations. Nobody catches one of the roamers there from Space Station as they go down the blue stairs. That's huge. Rampy has made it back. He'll actually try to come back up to assist Foltz, who is attempting a flank in garage. I like this, though, from Space Station. It's dangerous, very dangerous. But one of the biggest problems we had in that last round is even though Space Station had a good setup, because TSM was posted up and allowed to execute the strat as they wanted, even with very little time and a good setup from SSG in the site, Space Station still couldn't win it. So now they're changing something up. They're trying to do things differently. It might work out for them.
Foltz gets shot through the wall as he gets pinged and is unable to do enough damage to Chala, very narrowly losing the fight to the Jackal, but TSM get that opening pick walking in. So far, the entry from TSM is perfect on attack. They are 3 for 3 on their opening duels. They've had good objective play. And again, it's a church take from TSM. So the same bomb site that you just had to go after, well, you're going to get another opportunity to do it. And it was so definitive the first time that it forces SSG to break apart their entire defense. Right now, it is not working out in their favor. A second kill for TSM, making it even more challenging for those that will remain on the bomb site. 30 seconds to go in the round, and the final 3 members of SSG all are around the same area, all heavily fortified. The black mirror on the wall of church, for now, it's not going to go, even though a small window underneath it will be made, so Canadian will have to hold on for dear life, as this defense is just right now holding on by a thread. TSM liked their drop through the kitchen hatch, so they're going to repeat the process, with Geo going for the plant, and the coverage looks to be as good as ever. Merc finds Bosco, only 2 remaining. This could be a near flawless round. No, but Rampy's Nitro Cell stops it in its tracks. Nobody gets that diffuser down, and despite an overwhelming numbers advantage, one single Nitro Cell wins the round for SSG.
Wow, Rampy just gets the diffuser stopped in its tracks and stays alive. Talk about by the skin of his teeth. He barely won that, but a dub is a dub. And SSG keep themselves in contention here. We were looking down the barrel of match point just now. It was looking all but certain. And surprising, to be fair, because TSM were doing that very close to the end of the timer. But still, Rampy wins. I mean, there's not a whole lot else to talk about there other than the roam that we saw from Space Station. It was ineffective in the frag department, to say the least. I mean, both of those roamers died without actually getting a kill or doing any damage, really. But they wasted some time, so that was something. And TSM definitely did feel it. And I don't think it was enough to win the round by itself, but that's why Rampy had that C4 primed and ready by K9. So good job to Rampy. All the same, I don't think that screams confidence for SSG. I really don't. I like that they strategically, they sat down, they thought about it, they figured out what they thought the counter was, but it still looked like things were going the way of TSM right up until the last second.
5 seconds to go.
Which is pretty crazy considering that this was supposed to be the map that Space Station absolutely dominated on.
Yeah, I think if you looked at the maps that were brought up here, you know, Consulate up next after this, Villa if required, Cafe if required, I think it's fairly even because these teams have very good map pools. It's not like TSM has 2 or 3 stinkers where if they show up, it's game over. Clubhouse yesterday certainly looked that way. Today, not the case. SSG has to go perfect for the remainder of this match if they want to win Clubhouse. If not, it has to go to overtime. Because if TSM wins a single round, regulation victory for SSG no longer in the cards. It's daunting. It's definitely doable. Fultz leads things off with a kill on Nabolo, who's 9-7 is deceptively quiet, and he's been nowhere near as impactful as he has before.
Whoa.
Thinking nade with 2 kills with the shotgun as TSM just goes for broke. They charge right in, and the man who was able to stop them before on Maestro, that Alda being so good, well, he's got the shotgun to do it this time. SSG with 3 unanswered kills, and there's still over a minute and a half left. Now, amateur teams that might not have the same confidence, teams might get a little bit nervous, get a little bit loose. It's very easy for them to make a mistake or 2 and have the defenders forfeit a kill or 2 or a death or 2. In this case, I don't suspect we're going to see those same mistakes that would be committed by other teams, as TSM are looking to try to maybe flush out 1 or 2 members of SSG. But this round is all but over at this point, even though there's still so much time left. And there goes another. As Fultz was on the stairs, he takes out Achieved. Only 1 remaining. A near flawless round. We haven't had a flawless round yet. If Chala can find 1 kill, then he'll break that. But for SSG, they just need to sit and wait for 1 minute to go. And there might be a timeout taken here, depending on what we see. Chala might just waste some time, and that's exactly what he's going to do. So the round is going to go in favor of Space Station. TSM will take some time to discuss this. It will also allow Space Station to do the same. These teams will hit the reset button, and it'll be 5-5 once this timer hits 0.
So Chala right now, he's just extending the tactical timeout that has been called by TSM. So this is going to give them, as you said, it gives everyone time to think. So a little bit of a lull, and I think that lull is necessary because we've seen nonstop action from both of these teams. That round right there, that's a little bit worrisome. You know, TSM, they had the lead for a little bit. They've now lost it. They tried to go for a Hail Mary play, the rush in through the breach immediately, thinking Nate is just ready to receive it. So
seconds remaining.
what we've got right now is a difficult spot for TSM. It is still a fact that defense is going to be the favored team in a matchup like this. So SSG is starting to build up some momentum. They're on the advantageous side. They're feeling comfortable. They're feeling confident, landing their shots, winning their rounds. TSM has to do something special to change that momentum shift. They need to really, truly stop this in its tracks before it gets started. Here's the official start of the tactical timeout. And that's really, since we had that extra minute in game that Chala managed to give his team, it's about a 2-minute tactical timeout, which is a very luxurious pace to think about your next round strategy.
So the team will listen in on their comms with Pojo, their coach. As you can see, they've all largely turned or at least cocked their head to one side to listen to him, even though you don't need to do that. You're wearing headphones, but anyway, you can tell that they're all ready to listen to what Poj has to say. Their coach and former player on this team, who's now guiding them through the trials and tribulations. Pojo was also on that roster, if you remember, that prevailed at DreamHack Montreal, the only major international event that this TSM roster has successfully competed and won at. And I think it was talked about yesterday by both Blue and Stokes when they were doing the broadcast, and somewhat by the analysts, is that this TSM roster is always the bridesmaid, but never quite the bride in North America. DZ was in similar position until they won the August major that we saw. TSM have an opportunity here to add another trophy to a different North American team's trophy case. And they've got, honestly, a good shot at it at the moment. That 1-map advantage that came in for SSG is effectively nullified if you take the first map off of SSG. Because then that leaves the 3 remaining maps, at which point it just becomes a regular best of 3, with TSM being favored on both Cafe and Consulate. Villa's a good map for both teams. They've only played it once apiece, both an 8-6 victory over DZ. But if you watched the TSM versus DZ game yesterday on Villa, which Villa, by the way, becomes a requirement if TSM wins this map. it was more that DZ let TSM win rather than TSM muscled it out. A lot of mistakes committed by Dark Zero, and I would argue that for the most part of that map, DZ was the better team over TSM. Not that that matters much here because teams match up entirely different to each other. You saw a team like Disrupt, who I think most people in North America would consider to be many steps back of the top 4. They put in quite a lot of work to keep it close against SSG, and the DG had talked about the fact that they thought that they were very well matched when it came to a team like SSG. They might struggle against a team like Dark Zero, XG, or TSM. So we can't exactly draw the parallels we want, but if TSM wins this, I think the advantage of the remaining maps tilt in their favor, and that is good news for them and their team.
U-Jammer is going to be a problem there for Geo as he tries to get the wall open. It'll need to be stopped or destroyed by somebody on TSM. Could be Bolo, could be Achieved. Somebody with an explosive device from server window. It's likely that there's got to be like one disc, one magnet. But no, it's actually just, yeah, Bolo doesn't even need to use an explosive. He'll shoot it from rafters. Now, Rampy is behind this attack right now, and Fultz is on top red, so this is a significant investment on the cash side for SSG. They're aware that this is going to be the immediate attack for TSM, and Spacestation want to counter it directly, so they position themselves accordingly. TSM are already dealing with this. 2 smokes used by Red Hall, and they are not perfect. They do not fully cover line of sight. Fultz could have gone prone there, but he's going to descend red stairs and get spotted and finished off by Bolo. So the leadoff kill for TSM, and that'll actually prompt the rest of this defense to fall back to the site. That and the fact that we've just gotten down to the last 80 seconds. So I think a smart move there from SSG. Not so much from Fultz, but they extend this round and keep themselves in a decent position despite losing the first man.
Rampy doesn't like a run out over from the strip club doorway, maybe to waste some time, maybe come back at a later date. We don't entirely know. TSM doesn't seem to be fully aware of it as they now pressure this jacuzzi wall. Worth mentioning that no team has successfully defended this bomb site so far on this map. So if SSG do it, it'll be the first time that it happens, and they'll move to match point off of it. It's my favorite round. I get to say it. Whoever wins this round goes to match point.
There it is.
There it is.
It sounds good, doesn't it?
It does. It sure does. Canadian has now taken up the same spot inside a strip club that Rampy was at before, and TSM will drone out as much of the bomb site as they can. They have control for the moment of the east side of the building, and will likely push through construction and jacuzzi at the same time. Both Merc and Bolo sustaining heavy damage, but Bolo gets his second kill on the Canadian, as that run out had happened from over by a strip club. Merc will look to charge on in through the window inside of Gym, with Bosco playing behind this deployable shield. He gets flushed out. Biggie Nate is down below. Clock's about to hit 10 seconds, and this is perfect for him. There's the defuse from Geo going down. Nitro Cell gets tossed up, but it misses. Achieved with 2 kills, and Chala's in as well. A flawless round comes out, and with it, TSM take match point.
Huge round from TSM. Huge miss on that C4 from below, but it might not have even mattered. There were still a few seconds on the clock. We had yet to hit 000. A possibility of a win there on time was very slim. So TSM winning out in those frags. The execution and collapse under the site. They're looking stellar here. We're going to have a brief pause before we actually get the action back underway. But what we do know is that the score is certainly, definitively going to be 6-5. TSM won that round. Now they are 1 away from winning the map. The early clear over by Cash. Let's start with that. I really like the way that TSM put so much emphasis on that clear on the Cash side, because it managed to fish them out the first kill, but also, strangely, SSG capitulated in the end.
Why does this always happen to me?
What happened?
Look on your screen.
You're what? I don't know if anyone noticed.
I look like a sports coach shouting from the bench.
Yeah, it's always got to be something, Parker. At the beginning of the broadcast, my for some reason my mic was cutting out.
Yeah, so, I look like I'm standing on the bench shouting to the team on the field. Probably not saying nice things, if I'm being honest with you.
I could see you as a head coach for like a football team or something.
I don't know if I could.
Maybe a hockey team?
I don't know. No? Maybe.
I think a hockey team would be more, accurate. But Yeah, when SSG fell back off of cash, that surprised me. They're just like, no, we're getting out. Somebody made that call. I don't know who made that call on Spacestation, but it was the safe bet. It was not the winning bet, as hindsight will tell us based on the result of that round. So clearly you can tell maybe fighting a little bit harsher for cash might have been the play. I mean, remember that round, for example, when SSG defended the bottom floor. They put 2 roamers upstairs, and they told them, don't leave. Just stay upstairs. Both of those roamers died and got no kills. But what happened? SSG won it on time. Now, barely, because of that C4 from Rampy that got the 2 kills and denied the plant. But still, it's the time that TSM has been struggling with. They're executing in the last 20 seconds on a fast round. If you make it a slow round, an arduous round, you make it a hard to clear out the roamers round. Even if the roamers get no kills, Spacestation can work that into a round W, but they have been struggling with that, and they've been making the safe call a lot, like that last round we just saw.
I'm fixed, by the way. Now you get to see me animated. I am not just replaced by a JPEG. But that'd be kind of cool. It's just every time they come back to us, see if production can invest in like one of those like mouth flap things where it's like the picture stays the same, but the mouth just flaps as we talk.
I think that's just like taking a video, cropping the mouth, and putting the mouth part over JPEG.
Are you like a mouthologist now, Michael?
No, I do some editing though, so well, not anymore. I haven't edited in a long time.
Well, very nice.
Yeah.
We're getting everything set back up, by the way, for the game to go on in. Both of these teams will be given a free timeout, essentially, and they'll get to talk quite a lot. This could actually benefit Spacestation a fair bit because they're going to be able to settle down and realign for what is going to be, if you are a sane person, a church defense. The only 2 bomb sites that are open at the moment that are defendable are gym and church. Bar and stock is always open, but nobody ever wants to go. A funny joke there, I suppose, that somebody much smarter than I could make about how the bar is open, but nobody wants to attend. So it'll be a church defense for Spacestation when we go back in. And if you look at church so far, it was a very lopsided victory for TSM. The second take, as SSG went right back to church, almost went in favor of TSM as well. It was saved by one Nitro Selly boy that was tossed on over and killed Geo. That was it. The rest of the round, same as before, very much breaking in favor of TSM. And there were 2 players from TSM that were at dummies that were within striking distance of where the Nitro Cell was tossed the back of Arsenal. So even then, that round could have very easily gone for TSM too. These are shaky defenses from Spacestation on this site, and they are meeting incredibly well-oiled attacks from TSM. So TSM are obviously going to be very confident about this one as they go on in to what is going to be the very final site of regulation. If they prevail, TSM takes the map 7-5. And by taking the map 7-5, they knock out one of the benefits that SSG had.
And that was the clubhouse. It was hyped up, it was talked about, and rightfully so. No matter how you look at clubhouse, you'd think that SSG, this is theirs. And right now, TSM are saying, no, it's ours. It's going to be close, though. As mentioned, if you want my take on it, really, TSM, they're doing a great job on their executes, but they're doing those executes so very late. Well-oiled is right, Parker, but the time is a major factor here. And while TSM are good at scrambling in the dying seconds, if you can push those dying seconds back just 10 seconds, SSG can win the round off that. I am hopeful, for SSG's sake, that that's what they're talking about right now. And that's what they're going to try and base their defenses on moving forward. But it's not a guarantee. We don't know what SSG sees. Sometimes it's a very different picture than what the rest of us see. We'll see when, of course, we actually get into the action. If Spacestation is going to commit to delay, commit to being proactive on their defense, on their roam, or if they're going to try and bunker up and turtle as so many other teams do in these close situations. We're about to find out as we head into round 12. Spacestation, their last defense in regulation, and they will choose the basement, as you guessed, Parker. Or not guessed, you assessed. That's better.
Yeah, I mean, it was a guess at the end of the day as well, because they could have done whatever they wanted. Who knows?
Educated
Maybe
guess?
SSG could have pulled out a bar stock for all we know and dumbfounded all of us at the same time. It was a possibility. It was by no means a sure thing that it would be a Church Arsenal defense. But if you
Sure
are
you
a
weren't
smart
reading the
person
script?
who follows the ebb and flow of maps, Church Arsenal is where they were going to go.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
And here they are. Goyo going to be brought once again from Space Station. They have brought the mute. He's not going upstairs early for mute jammers for a roam, though. No Mozzie as well. This is kind of looking like a turtle. It's not certain, but it looks a lot like that one round that SSG were poised to win but ended up losing, where they had just like 10 seconds left and TSM only just then opened up the kitchen drop down and fell. But somehow narrowly TSM manages to win on frags. That it looks like Space Station wants to revisit that strategy, and they obviously know something that we don't. Usually when you bring out the same strategy that failed once before, especially with a team like Space Station who has a very deep strat book, usually when you revisit the strat, it's because you think one thing went wrong that completely destroyed the strat. You know what that thing is, and you know how to not let that thing go wrong again. So, Space Station, feeling confident with this strategy in play. It was a close round, to be fair. TSM won it in landslide on frags, but the time was narrow, so Space Station could have had it. Maybe this is going to be their moment.
Well, I mean, there were some changes as to how SSG looks to be defending. Both times prior, they had a very heavy off-site presence. And in fact, SSG surrendered 2 of their players to TSM on the top floor before. 1 on the top floor and 1 on the main floor. Before that, the action went down on that second floor too, in what we often call the SSG roam, as it's pretty commonplace. A nitro cell gets burned as that's the first bit of action, but nobody is harmed by it as Achieved goes in, sledges, and gets out as quickly as he can. We will again take a good long look at Achieved's play as Sledge here, because it will be paramount for TSM. If he can safely open up as much of the floor as he can, most of the floor, I would even say, inside a kitchen, then SSG will continue to be forced back, and there it goes. Achieved will start to break his hammers per minute as best as he can, while the hatch gets taken care of by Geo. No impact tricking, that will be possible because there are no impacts on the side of SSG. 2 nitro cells, a bulletproof camera, and 2 deployable shields is all they've got. And those nitro cells are going to come in very handy. Canadian's already used his. That leaves a lot on the shoulders of Rampy, who was the savior of the round previously.
Same basic setup as last time, really. Same early outcome. Space Station continuing to wait. They're clearly aware that time is a major factor here. Dangerous angle played and dangerous angle lost. Merc will win out against Fultz. The leadoff kill. You can see that TSM, though, is not jumping the gun. They don't need to. They still have enough time by their standards for an execution. That smoke actually works out great as it gets full visibility cut off. And Rampy is in not a great spot as a result, but there's no drop to follow it up.
There
Canadian
is an X factor, though, by the way, Michael. There's one on blue at the moment for TSM.
Yes, it's going to be the Capitao bolts coming in here for Chala as he can make this push happen and do some serious work from behind. There's a double drop, actually, and a plant inside of Cubby. The explosive take into Arsenal gets 2 big kills for Achieved, but he's down by Thinking Nade. Now the last defender. He has to find 4. He'll finish off his kill, but now in a post-plant, 3 frags on the board. It doesn't seem like it's likely to happen, though, as the long angle wins out. For Geo, TSM will take map number 1 in an incredible finish, and one that nobody really expected.
Not by that scoreline, that's for sure. It's as tight as it gets without overtime being needed, but TSM, after a miserable clubhouse yesterday, well, they get their